let's talk about this. I made a tweet, which this might be 2 different videos. I'm not entirely too sure how I want to string this along, but I like what you mentioned right there, right? That the HP inflation thing was a result of the decibel changes, which is not entirely true. So this is probably going to be a 2-parter because I have thoughts on a completely different topic about this as well. But TLDR, I made this tweet a couple days ago. Genuine question. In-game and gacha games or likewise, what exactly do players expect these modes to consist of? Are they supposed to be in-game, quote unquote, or is it just another game mode players expect to blindly finish for free? The reason I asked this question was in relation to a couple different things. One being that I saw, what was it? My boy Saint recently, I think he released a video or something like that, going over Zenless and like why the HP inflation was a problem or why it was where it was. Most of what he said about the entire video or throughout the entire video, I pretty much agreed with until he started talking about Zenless. And then this is where I was like, okay, I'm starting to notice a pattern here with more people explaining the issues with Zenless that they have versus the actual problem that would exist in Zenless if it did exist. HP inflation is not one of those problems. There's a number of factors as to why this wouldn't be a thing. This is also going to go hand in hand with another video that I'll probably watch and react to as well. I really want to watch this video and I really want to see like what their perspective is on that right blade cube and see kind of where it's going. And the gist of what I can explain, or rather what I'm getting at with the whole thing across the board, is pretty much going to be the fact that HP inflation, let me finish that point too. Yeah, HP inflation is not the result or the direct result of the decibel changes. That is a part of it because what the decibel changes did was it opened up the door for something that I warned people about. And it's not even like a bad warning, but I did mention if you open up the game to the point where it's treated more like Genshin or Wuthering or whatever, where everyone has access to this ultimate meter, this ability to do a big shot move. If you do that, you now have to shift and repurpose. Like you got to rework a lot of things about the game because the initial part of the game was built around one person on the team using up the decibel meter. So one person on the team gets their ult, their burst, whatever the case may be, but everyone is working and contributing towards this decibel rating. And so what that would do whenever you're playing the game is that now you would be encouraged. I know players didn't do this early on, but this was a thing that, again, I tried to explain to people as to like, you should be doing these things, but you can't really force anyone to do something they don't want to do, which is totally fine. And it's also one of those things where like, what was the question they always said? Oh, why would I do that? Why would I do that if I don't have to do that, right? Like if the game doesn't force me to do it, why would I do it? And so everyone uses their decibel ratings back then, right before 1.4 for just the DPS character, despite the fact that other characters, for instance, like Rina or Koleda or Nekomata is, I guess, still in this case, a DPS character, but whatever, Ching Yi, Nicole, a lot of different characters were using or had benefits to using their ultimate or to using the decibel meter, right? Given the situation at hand. And so Zenless, time and time again, has shown us that it is a game it's very, I don't want to say calculated, but typically they're very careful when it comes to the player versus whatever you got going on interaction. There's a lot more give and take, a lot more back and forth than some of the other games that we can compare it to, right? And so when you're looking at this from a I'm playing the game perspective, your whole thing should be reacting to whatever's happening. This game, even though you can make it robotic, but you have to be really good at making it robotic. What does that mean? In the event I'm fighting, like I told you guys, a bringer, right? Rico mentioned this earlier, yeah? Or Ribbo mentioned it earlier about like how you have to get bringer into the 3rd phase in order to get all of your points. But then I have a video, which let me try and find the clip. I've shown this a few times on the channel already, so I don't even remember what the clip itself is called. But and I really don't want to spend time looking for it, but the proof is on my channel. It's on my Twitch and it's on my Twitter. I have this infinite stun clip, right? Where we literally lock down Bringer. He cannot move. It's Miyabi, Seth, and Yanagi. And I'm using the entire team, not just Miyabi, not just Yanagi, not just Seth. Every one of those on the team work in tandem with each other to lock down Bringer so that he cannot move. He can't do anything. What this results in, I rack up 20 to 30K points almost immediately. Before the 1.5 minute mark or 2 minute mark, something like that, I'm already above my 3-star count, right? To clear everything. I could literally stop pressing buttons and clear the whole thing in Deadly Assault just like that. 2, this stops him from going into not only his 2nd phase, but his 3rd phase as well. And something else that we discovered Now, I couldn't do it. My boy Nix had to do it for me by showing me like when to time it, because I couldn't figure out the timing for it. You guys know whenever Bringer does, and there's a couple different enemies that do this, but point being is that right now we're talking about Bringer. No M2 Miyabi. I don't have M1, M2 of any of the limited characters. I only have M0s and a W1, right? So M0 and then their W engine. I don't pull Eidolons until a rerun, or if I'm really, really lucky, that has not happened for me. So I don't have those. So that's out of the question. Has nothing to do with my Eidolons. It's pure me playing the game and just being good at doing what I'm trying to do. Now, beyond that point, Bringer, you know, when he goes into, after he does his second phase, you stun him, and then he comes out of stun, he recovers. He goes into the phase, he summons down from the sky or falls down from the sky. He stands there for like half a second, and then he roars, he teleports, and then he summons the eyeball, right? You can stop this phase entirely. You don't have to let him summon the eyeball. A lot of players don't know this. So I'll try and find the clip here. I know Nick sent it to me. This one I actually don't mind looking for, because I'm real positive it's in my DMs somewhere. Give me just a sec, guys. Let me try and find this here. Here we go. This is the clip that I'm referring to, or rather a part of the clip that I'm referring to, right? Which is pretty much gonna show. I'm gonna skip through because we don't have to let him do it. Right around here, right?
Press forward.
What up, Alvin? How you doing? Guys, I'm doing all right. Hey, man, I appreciate that. Do you guys notice this? Normally what happens right here after the roar, we've all seen it. We all know what happens. He roars, you do something, he absorbs it, and he teleports anyway. But he's not going to get the roar. He doesn't get the second phase. Literally, you're literally stopping him from going into the next phase right here. And this is purely from understanding what the characters can do and how to play the game. I constantly tell you guys why Seth is goated at what he does. And this is a prime example of that. Oh, it's just Miyabi and Inagi. No, all of them are working together. That's why I value team structure more than I do like buffing the shit out of one unit. And that's another thing that we'll talk about in this video, but you know, kind of goes in what I'm saying. It's a weekly boss. It's not really it's nice, but really not a big deal. Barracuda, you might, unless you're talking to someone else. I don't know if you're talking to someone else, you're talking about what I'm talking about in relation to this. This has nothing to do with whether or not a boss is hard or difficult or whatever. It's the principle that there are things you can do in the game, given your ability or knowledge to do it, that the average player doesn't know, or they just don't want to do, or whatever the case may be. The reason I brought this up in the grand scheme of things is so that more people are aware that the game is structured a certain way. Like it's structured around, how do I put it? Certain things happening between player and the enemy, right? Let me turn the light on too. So this is kind of what I'm getting at, right? With that explanation there, and then showing you guys that there are things that you can do in the game that simply, with the knowledge, completely change what you're going at. How does this relate to the HP inflation that I mentioned earlier? The HP inflation happening wasn't because of just the decibel changes, but I needed to show you guys all that stuff that I was talking about in order for you to understand why the decibel changes were what they were. In that clip and in multiple clips, you can see I'm using Seth's ultimate, I'm using Miyabi's ultimate, I'm using Unite. Like, you have all this stuff. The game was centered around only one character on the team being able to use their burst in this period of time. And then there would be a natural cooldown process, because there's no way for you to build up 3,000 decibels again in those 5, 6, 7 seconds during that stun window, right? You had to make a conscious decision on what and when you use your burst pre 1.3, which made thinking about that decision a lot more impactful. They changed it, and now it opened up the door. So it's not just because of the decibel change, it's because they opened the door for damage, for support ultimates, for defensive ultimates, whatever. There's a lot of different things that happen from just doing the decibel change. Then at the same time, we got Miyabi. There's no reason for me to speak on Miyabi. We all know about this character. Right after Miyabi, we got Astra, a character that's supposed to bring up attack type units, right? Supposed to bring up attack type units onto whatever's going on, to the same plane as Anomaly. but then just made Anomaly even more broken. So you got the two most busted characters releasing in the same time frame. No, their answer is going to be to increase the HP of enemies. You would have to be ballistic to think that, hey man, don't increase any HP at all, don't increase any resistances, don't make the enemies more aggro or give them new mechanics, just leave it the same exact way so that everyone who gets Miyabi is going to be able to breeze through all content of the game. They get Astra, they can breeze all content of the game, and it's perfectly fine. So I asked a question on Twitter about Endgame. I then made a follow-up question because someone answered it, usually the answer that people would give. In fact, I think we can just show it to you. Let me see if I have it here. Where are we? Here we go. Mochi. The end game is supposed to be challenging. We all agree on that, but the challenge should never be if you decide to pull the right characters or not. Now, in a gacha game or in a non-gacha game, I could agree with this, but due to the fact that this is a gacha game, there's obviously something that we kind of have to keep in mind, and it is the fact that they're going to sell the character or the new weapon or whatever it is. So Mochi goes on to say, the challenge should never be the challenge should be gameplay related. If the in-game mode only exists to shield your latest release unit, you can keep it. Now, I understand where Mochi is coming from, and I agree with what Mochi is saying to a certain degree. But again, the gacha game aspect of this has to be taken into account. So my follow-up question to this, I see where you're coming from. I have a follow-up. How do you balance that around a gacha, or any for that matter? If you continue creating stronger characters, wouldn't you have to make just as strong or even stronger enemies? Or is the expectation for these enemies to stay the same? This is the question that I would pose to anybody in order to kind of figure that out, right? Because if you look at this from an MMO's perspective, what an MMO does is essentially the same thing, except there's no gacha tied behind it. They release new armor or gear, weapons, right? We're just gonna call it gear. They release new gear. They might make a new class like Final Fantasy 14, and with that might come new spells or skills or abilities for all the other classes. And then they also have new enemies or mechanics or bosses, things like that, new dungeons, and then they're stronger than the previous. You have to grind for it. You have to improve yourself. You have to learn the new mechanics of the boss and then go and do whatever it is. You can't go in with like, right, if I'm going from patch, I haven't played the game since, 2 point whatever in Final Fantasy 14, and then I go all the way up to 5 point whatever in Final Fantasy 14. I can't expect my 2.x gear to keep up with the 5.x. It just doesn't work that way. So at some point, you're gonna have to put in the effort on your own. You're gonna have to put in the personal effort, the personal work in order to get to that point. I don't think players want to do that, right? And then Mochi, there's a follow-up, right? He answers, or they answered the question, which I'm like super thankful that Mochi and I were able to actually have that conversation. Make the bosses not only DPS checks, but use interesting mechanics and other things. I do agree that there will be eventual HP creep. However, make sure that if played well, any character in an optimized setup is able to clear. I could agree with this again to a degree, so I had to ask my question after that, or rather speak on it. That's another issue that'll come up in gacha games. Not every character has access to the same functions. In Zenless, we all see this clear as day. Example, as I listed here, Ellen and Nekomata having backdash tech. I call it tech. You guys don't have to use that term, but they have things that they can do with their backdashes that other characters in the game cannot do, right? That's exclusive to Ellen and Nekomata and a couple other characters. Or Evelyn. Evelyn literally has a free EX get out of jail free card. It costs no meter. I press the button, I get a free counter dodge. I wrap you in my tether, I still get my skill off that also still costs no meter. I get all the rewards and benefits from me using it, and I get counter dodge properties. On top of that, if I happen to switch, I get double skill for free. Who else has that? No one else has that. Like no one else has that in the game, right? So it's really hard to try and balance a new enemy or enemies around what everybody should be able to do, but you've made characters with exclusive abilities or skills that only they or a select cast of them can do that. It's crazy. And Barracuda, we're not defending, at least I'm not defending HP inflation. Maybe I am. If I'm defending HP inflation, I'm not trying to defend the term itself. I'm trying to explain why the thing that you're complaining about, not you specifically, just in general, about Zenless is completely irrelevant. It's such an inarguable thing that it's pointless to be arguing about it, right? And so your question, why are we defending HP inflation? They can sell characters by making unique gameplay / making good stories. So this goes into the original question. You see how like my video was going to tie into each other? This goes to my original question. Let me go back to it. In game and gacha games or likewise. This is directed towards you, Barracuda. I would like an answer if you have one. What exactly do players expect these modes to consist of? Are they supposed to be in-game, or is it just another game mode players expect to blindly finish for free? You guys might be able to mention the mechanics of the game, which we're all in favor of that, right? Make new mechanics, make interesting things happen. Now we get into the other thing that I just asked you. How do you balance it around all the interesting characters that you've created in your game? If everyone has access to different that is busted or not busted and rewards them differently than a character that doesn't have it, how do you balance that? It's not me saying that you need HP inflation to happen, but when you have characters that you've introduced that are too powerful, right? And they have absolutely borked mechanics. The mechanics, some of these characters, Miyabi, obviously Astra, they have mechanics or the ability to help out a team or a player that no one else in the game has. To this day, there's not another character in the game that does what Miyabi does. How do you balance that? There's only two answers. One answer you guys really would hate. The other answer is doable, but it requires personal effort, which also I guess people hate. I don't really know how this works, to be fair. I'm gonna watch that video, and I feel like the video is gonna say something along the lines of like Zenless doesn't have interesting boss mechanics, or the enemies in Zenless don't have interesting mechanics, and that's just a bold-faced lie. So we can't say that the enemies in Zenless don't have interesting mechanics. They do. Whether or not you think they're interesting personally is subjective. But these bosses in the game do have interesting things attached to what they have going on. Hugo, UCC, Hyphen, Jane, Shadow Jane, right? A lot of these characters in the game have very interesting things that are attached to them, but again, subjective to whether or not you actually consider them interesting or like them, anything like that. The second thing that would have to play into like, how do you balance that out? How do you fix it? You make the game way harder. You punish the player significantly more. Players would absolutely hate the fuck out of that. They say, like, you guys say you want a gacha game that challenges the shit out of you. I don't think people understand everything that would entail. Not only with that, at that point, it forces you into a Star Rail situation. You have to pull the newest shit now, or you have to do the things that players don't want to do. Why would I learn the technical in the game? Why would I learn skill input? Negative anti-current cancel. I don't want to learn how to goober maximize 99. What do you want to do then? It's either you learn how to be the best at what you're trying to do so that you can essentially skip over the issues that HP inflation or power creep or whatever would present, or you pull the newest shit. There's no other way to do that I can see. Maybe I'm wrong, right? I would actually be interested in knowing how else would you do something like that, but you can't. It doesn't come off the same way. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't. What do you do? What do you do? And phone players would absolutely just imagine playing DMC on your phone, bro. And I know someone's done it. I've seen the video of them doing it, but like imagine that being a norm. Playing Devil May Cry on your phone, doing Devil May Cry combos. Imagine if Devil May Cry was like legit. Hey, in order for you to beat the game, you have to know all the Dante combo. You gotta know the nunchuck cancel combo into the uppercut with his great sword, his blade, right? You gotta know that. And then you gotta know the Ivory and what's the other girl's name? Ebony and Ivory. You gotta know the Ebony and Ivory keep sustain in the air combos. You need to know the dash cancels in between. You gotta land on the ground. Then you also need to do the same shit with Virgil in order to successfully beat the game. Like, you're not doing that on your phone. People aren't doing it on the PC already. You're not doing it on your phone. When we say we want more things to be challenging in these type of games, we're not taking into account the vast majority of players who openly admit, I don't want to play the game to do any of that. There's legit a comment that I had on Twitter, and I'm not calling them out in a negative way. I'm respectful of their opinion on it, because I feel the same way with like Genshin. I finally accepted it. I don't really need Genshin to be the end game, right? Like, it doesn't have to have end game. I just want to turn on Genshin and like press buttons and look at pretty colors. That's it. I don't even play Genshin like that, but I'm just saying this, like, if and when I turn on Genshin, I just want to see pretty colors. Also, how I do the swirl, and then Ayaka come out and she does her little ice dance. That's all I care about. I want to see like the cool, pretty colors. I don't give a fuck if it's hard or not. I just want to do it, right? When we look at games like Zenless, Wuthering, Black Beacon, whatever, majority of people aren't turning on that game to break their fingertips. So we can't even do it. We can't be asking for the same. Oh man, they could make the bosses more interesting and have harder mechanics. You already don't deal with the mechanics in the game right now. You want more? You want more? I just showed you guys the bringer and the comment after that. Oh man, well that's the weekly boss. That don't mean nothing. It's the weekly boss. Oh, well in Deadly Assault, you actually can't do that because you'll run out of energy. Says who? The person that didn't do it or the person that did it? Because I did it. There's a 2-minute clip that you guys have access to on this channel of me locking down Bringer in Deadly Assault without running out of meter. Why? Because I know the combo. I practiced the rotation. I studied how to do this, and I'm not even the one that came up with it, right? But how did you do that? Oh, that's crazy. I want to learn how to stun like somebody. What did you do? And I went and looked at it. I studied the whole thing for an hour and I copied it. Then I learned why do you do EX skill in this moment versus wasting it 30 seconds earlier? Why do you build up 75% meter instead of wasting it as soon as you get it? Why do you hold on to your ultimates even though you're capped out for the next 15 seconds until you get stunned? Why are you like all the questions about why you're doing something? And this is just me. I'm that type of player. I've already accepted not everybody wants to do this, which is why I'm explaining what I'm explaining. Everyone doesn't want to do that. They've openly admitted they don't want to do this technical input mumbo jumbo fighting game jargon, which I'm just saying that because it's funny, haha meme, but they've already admitted that. You want them to add more mandatory in the game that people already don't want to do the not mandatory? No, it just doesn't work that way. You can't do it. And in Star Rail's case, we could argue all day and night about why Star Rail's HP inflation is significantly one of the worst things that anybody can experience going from new player to now. It's bad. That is inarguable. We can't argue about that being a good thing anymore, or even a positive thing, or like, oh, because you can check it. How do you counter HP inflation in Star Rail? Oh, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. But that requires you to pull some units, a lot of units. It requires you to play around with RNG and a bunch of other shit people don't want to do. I don't want to do it, right? Then there's the fact that there's really no point, except for, hey man, half of Star Rail is in game. Damn, that's crazy. So like this goes into what was it? One of y'all said it, not you guys in here, but someone said like, oh, I play the game for the story. I play the game for the events. Oh, so what do you do for the rest of the other half of the game? The other half of Star Rail is in game. Like you can't just not play it. And you know what I mean? So Zenless, you have events, you have story, you have mini games. They have a literal arcade with, they're updating new games every like couple patches. We get a new game or something like that. Hollow Zero is like the easiest in game in the world. I don't even know if I'd call it in game, although it can be. It's pretty difficult when you start adding on multipliers, but it's easy, right? You get the buffs, you get the right buffs, just like in Simulated Universe, and you just play through the game. So Zenless has more don't play in-game modes than the other games do, but we're still talking about in-game. So now this goes back to my initial question. What do we want in-game to be? As players, what do we want in-game to be? I got a lot of great comments in this tweet, a lot of great responses, you know, pretty much going over the fact that like they want in-game to do this, or they like Zenless's in-game, or they like Wuthering's concept. A lot of people actually, I'm not gonna say a lot of people, a few people brought up PGR and Arc Knights, which I was like, whoa, I haven't played Arc Knights, so I don't know a lot about Arc Knights, right? I just got into it with Enfield. PGR, I know a little bit about, but I'm not a pro. I don't know enough about it to tell somebody about it. But a couple people mentioned that, and they were like, yo, these are really good. Like they should probably look into this and then borrow 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm like, I see. I like it. And I mean, I'm looking now. Barracuda, did you ever answer my question? I know we're like so far, if you don't want to play the game, they should be happy with clearing in-game content with B/A ranks. See, okay, wait. I don't know if you're still in here, but that one, the line that you said is interesting. If they don't want to play the game, they should be happy with clearing in-game content with B and A ranks. Why? Because wouldn't this kind of go into what I was asking before, where it's like, is in-game something that people just expect to, like, it's like another mode that you just get free shit in. Like you should just, you deserve it because it's there. There are rewards here that might be premium currency and you deserve it because you want it. Is that one of those things? because you can't say that in like for instance like 14, right? Or in Path of Exile. You go into Endgame in Path of Exile or Last Epoch or Lost Epoch, whatever it was, right? The game that has a season 2 going on right now. You go into those and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna play Endgame. Because I can do it, I deserve rewards for playing Endgame. No, if you don't complete it, you get fucked. You get nothing. GG's, pack it up, go again. So why is it that a player who can't clear or doesn't want to take the means to clear, why should they be content and deserve anything at all by that, by that standpoint? I think that is just purely a gacha mentality. I think the gacha community has been so conditioned to, I need the premium currency, that they feel entitled behind it. Hey, there's premium currency locked behind this thing that I'm not physically ready for, nor do I want to do the work required to complete it successfully. But I deserve the rewards locked behind it. A little crazy, but that's just me, To be fair, in PoE, often beating the hardest content doesn't get you loot. It's only blasters that farm it hard that get the loot. But casual players just beat it once. They don't make the map currency cost back. That sounds like they're not doing in-game. If it's casual, that sounds way more casual than it does in-game, right? I'm playing your game, reward me for it. Give me my rewards now, Hoyo, I need it. Man. But to end this video off, if this even becomes a video, TLDR, HP inflation, not related to the decibel changes alone. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. In-game is a prime result of that, or rather a direct result or whatever response. And then you also have the fact that Miyabi and Astra were a huge factor in why the HP inflation is happening in the first place. On top of that, speaking on the actual, like, should you be allowed or able to clear in-game and then get these rewards, whatever. Like I said, I think it's more so an entitled gacha player thing than it is the game's problem thing. The game itself does not have a problem. It's not super challenging to the point where you can't do it. And again, every single person that actually plays Zenless Zone Zero, like we literally play the game daily, every other day, whatever, you keep up with it. Everyone knows that people are like, there's literally Timely Billy does it on Twitter all the time. And there's who's the other guy? Who's the other one that does, I can't think of the name right now, but he's solo Billy main. Solo Billy main, everything he does is Billy. He has a YouTube channel where it's just straight up Billy. Until they can't clear content anymore, right? Piper is still 36 starring everything, clearing all the content in the game, getting 20K. Neko Flameski, thank you. Flameski is the Billy guy. Billy is still clearing content. People think he's like the worst character in the game, the worst DPS in the game. He's not. People that understand Zenless know that. Anton is still clearing content. Grace is still clearing content. Nekomata, Soldier 11. Like, these characters are still clearing content perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Piper is the worst out of no. If you think Piper is the worst, you're bugging. Piper is literally competing. Piper is competing with Jane for like whether or not you should play Jane or Piper in a lot of players' accounts. We're not doing that. That's that core and agenda. Jester, I know about you, bro. That's that core and agenda. You're trying to push the core and agenda the same way that I be pushing the Seth agenda. I gotta respect it. But you know what? I'm gonna end the video. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell y'all later.